Okay, so I promised a clip about clicker training, so I'm going to provide a clip about clicker training. That's like a tongue twister. Tongue twister. Okay, what is it? Firstly, the clicker's neither here nor there. The clicker is simply a sound. If you go and buy a clicker from a pet shop or you buy a clicker online, the clicker itself means absolutely nothing. Not until you have taught the dog what you want the clicker to represent. In this instance, or in the case of clicker roar, I'm going to call it marker training. So we'll forget the clicker at the moment, because all that is a tool that basically provides a consistent sound that the dog associates with something rewarding. I'll come to that in a minute. I'm going to call it marker training. So we get our sound, we get our clicker, we get our verbal yes or good or correct or whatever it is we want to say. Any sound, it can be the blowing of a whistle, the tooting of a horn, the click of a clicker, it really doesn't matter. But when the dog first hears that, it doesn't mean a great deal to them. So what we do is we need that to mean something to them. And the reason being is that that's going to be our means of communication between us and the dog. So when we say to the dog, correct, that's exactly what I wanted you to do, we want to be able to use that word. If we were speaking as humans, we could say, yes, correct, absolutely, bang on, spot on the money, whatever it is. We can use a phrase that as humans, we understand that that means I'm correct, but we can't do that with animals. So what we do is we take a sound that means nothing really, and we pair it with something that does mean something. Okay, so in this instance, or in a lot of instances, the clicker or the word yes or good or whatever it happens to be that you're going to choose as your marker signal comes immediately before the production of a reward, which is why we get the term click and treat training. Because we press the clicker, feed the dog, 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 then you press the clicker and you see what the dog does. And the ears go, whoop. Where is it? Where is it? What's next? And as soon as you got that, you're beginning to teach the dog, or the dog is beginning to teach itself, that it understands that that sound represents something positive. It represents something, or the introduction of something that it wants. So what we basically do then is that's termed charging or loading the mark or the clicker. So we take the clicker, click, feed, click, feed, click, feed, click, feed. We're not looking for any behaviour whatsoever, nothing. We're just basically putting a sound before some food, putting a sound before some food. For anybody who's ever gambled, it's the bells of a fruit machine. The bells ring, the money comes out. The bells ring, the money comes out. So you get a gambler, somebody who's hooked on it, and they hear a bell ringing, and it gives them a sort of feeling. It gives them a wanting, because they want that to happen for them, that they know what the sound means. It's actually nothing. It's just proceeded, no money need come out, but the bell will still elicit, or the sound of the bells will still elicit that same sort of like positive feeling within the individual, which is what we're looking to achieve when we marker train or clicker train a dog. Is that we take the sound and we put it immediately before something good for that particular dog. Now, no one person can tell you what is good for every dog. I could say to you, yeah, use food. All dogs like food. It's incorrect. All dogs need food, but different dogs value different things in different circumstances and at different moments in time. So some dogs may be obsessed with a tennis ball, some might like praise, some might like the ability to go and perform a dog thing, like sniff pee or go and meet another dog or whatever it happens to be. That could be their reward at that moment in time. So why do we do it? What is the point in pairing? It's called pairing because you just basically put the two together. A sound that means nothing and a reward that means something are paired together, so they come to represent the same sort of feeling within the dog. The reason that we do it is because we want to be able to communicate with our dog when they do something that we appreciate, that when they do something that we want them to do. So as people, I had this discussion today a couple of times over, as people we're verbal. Our primary source of communication, it's probably body language, but we're not necessarily aware of it. But as far as we're aware, our primary source of communication is to speak to one another. We like to converse. We understand language. But with dogs, that's not what we can do. They don't necessarily understand that if I say good boy or good girl or yes or finish or whatever it happens to be, that means something. There has to be something that follows that for the dog to form the association that that human word carries a consequence that they perceive to be beneficial. So what a clicker does, or what a marker does, a verbal marker does, is it tells the dog correct. That's what we're looking to basically do. We're looking to communicate with the dog, and we're looking to say correct. That is what I'm after at this moment in time. Bang, that's it, that's it. Try it again, that's it. Try it again, that's it. Try it again, that's it. And you pay with food, with toys, with praise, with tactile, cuddling or touching or whatever it is that your dog happens to find rewarding. And only each individual will know that, because they know their dog's the best. So what we do then is we take a sound that we've now paired with something positive, which teaches the dog the word correct. Once we can teach a dog the word correct, once the dog understands what correct means in human terms, we can then start asking things of that dog. And what a lot of people do is we free shape, or a term called free shape. So we may put a dog in a particular situation, say we may want the dog to perform a spin, and we may lure the dog, we may take a piece of food and move the dog in a particular direction, hold it slightly above the nose, and as the dog's head turns, we click, or we say yes, and we reward, and we do it again, and we say yes, and we reward, and then we move it a little bit further, yes, reward, a little bit further still, yes, reward. So we're basically incrementally teaching the dog the behaviour that we want them to do, which is to turn, but we're doing it in steps using a communication tool, which is basically the marker that we've taught the dog. Without it, if you decide that I'm just going to go ahead and train my dog anyway, and I don't necessarily want them to understand, or as a human trait they ought to understand because I bloody well own them, wrong, absolutely wrong. If you want to teach the dog, then you have to give the dogs the tools to be able to learn. And communication is the most important tool that there is. So that is why marker training is so important, is because it allows us to tell the dog, yes, correct, yes, correct, yes, correct, yes, correct. So the dog is thinking, whoa, I want to try it, How do I get that sound to come out? How do I get him or her to say yes? How do I get them to make that mechanical click-clock sound that the clicker makes? But that is what happens, is the dog begins to realise that by their own actions. So if I'm a dog, let me just give you an example. I'm a dog, and I walk up to you as the human, and you're standing there, and I look at you, and then I begin to put my backside on the ground. And as I begin to do that, you click, or you say yes, and you reward me. And then you move away. So I walk over to you again, I look at you, might bark, things that have got me a bit of attention in the past. I might paw at you, I might jump at you, and then I start at yes, as my bottom goes towards the ground. Now, it doesn't take a genius of a dog to figure out, hang on a second, the first time as my backside was going towards the ground, the second time as I wander. So the third time your dog comes over to you and it starts to plump its backside on the ground, but this time you wait until the actual bum hits the floor, yes. And the second it hits, we mark it and we say yes and we reward the dog. So now the dog's thinking, okay, so it comes over again, it hovers a little, nothing, bum down, yes. Okay, I understand what it is that you want me to do. You want me to put my backside onto the floor, you say that word, I know that that word precedes reward, I get rewarded for it. Okay, I can control this. I know exactly what I need to do to be able to control this. I can work you, I can train you from the dog's point of view. I know that I'm being anthropomorphic, but I'm just saying that from the dog's point of view, they have control over their environment. They become operant. The term operant, they're basically how they operate can control what the environment does for them, rather than the environment dictating what the dog does. The dog is now in a position to be able to think, by doing X, Y, or Z, I can get good things from the environment. Yeah, so that's a very, very brief, but it might be a little, oh my God, no, I don't know, have I been a bit technical? I don't know. But a very, very brief summary of clicker training and what it is. And it basically, there's an important thing that I've missed out here. Clicker training is also known, or marker training is also known as providing a bridging stimulus, if you want to be scientific. But basically, the reason that they call it a bridge is if I do something and I'm 200 yards away from you and you shout yes, then I realise, whoa, I've just done something. But it takes me time to get back to you to get the reward, or to get to wherever the reward might happen to be available. So basically what the yes does, what the mark does, is it provides a bridge between the behaviour that I've just done and I've been marked for, and the opportunity to take the reward. Okay, so it makes it unnecessary to have to feed straight away, because you mark that moment in time and you say, absolutely correct, that is what I wanted you to do, your reward is forthcoming. It is basically the same as receiving a pay slip, which in itself is nothing. A pay slip is worthless to you, but it marks what you've done, it tells you that the work that you've done is correct, and the reward follows. So it basically buys time for the trainer to be able to to be able to train the dog in various situations without having to constantly be right alongside them so that they can feed it. And that's marker training for you. In a nutshell, that's the basics of marker training. It goes a lot more deeper. You talk about reinforcement schedules, and you talk about ratios and all manner of things that go with it. But ultimately, if you're marking the dog and letting the dog know that what is correct, and you're rewarding the dog for it, then the dog is going to offer more of that particular behaviour. I hope that makes some sort of sense to you. I really, really do, and I'll welcome any questions that you've got. It's off the cuff, man. I've got no script. Cheers. Thank you.